a known quantity. Do I think that she will be able to rattle him in any way? No, I would argue right now the chance is 0.001%. Do I think he will be respectful? I do. Do I think he will passionately prosecute the case against her? I believe he's fully familiar with it, and especially in light of some new developments today. Look, we now discovered, Britt, think about this, that she's for decriminalizing for personal use hard drugs. That would be crack, fentanyl, heroin, cocaine. We didn't know this before. I didn't know this before last night.
Johnny Birdie, what's good? We are here. We are here. We are here. We are waiting on everything that's happening right now. Very interesting. Yeah, you're right about that. You are very right about that, my friend. Very interesting debate right now. And, you know, I never used to like Fox News. I mean, I kind of still don't, but listening to them now, they're like saying everything that I've been feeling right now. Turn up the volume. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on. Let me just, all right, hold up, Happy. I got you, bruh. Hold up, bruh. Here you go. Look, see?
And just ignored it. I think it definitely works to his advantage with the microphone being off. The only debate I'd have any criticism that he was ever a part of is when he had the first debate with Joe Biden. And I think that format is better for him overall. And I think that if it's water off a duck's back, that's half the battle for him tonight. I think Kamala's challenge will be, you know, answering those hard questions, those very radical positions she has staked out.
Exactly. She's not going to be able to answer shit.
Heretofore, which is a big media epic fail in my view.
Sean,
and we'll see if ABC allows that tonight.
May I get a word in, Sean? Sorry, I love teasing you with that. Well, here's the problem, is that she's been so vibed out over the last, several weeks now.
Crazy times.
Really cool.
How y'all doing today?
And done her recipe thing, which is
I'm gonna turn to tell you about how you guys doing today.
And Doug eats pretzels, and so that's all cool. But now is where the rubber meets the road. So I think, to Jesse's point, she has got to go on the attack. She has to show a different.
She's not gonna do none of that shit. Everybody knows it.
I think voters are going to continue to drift toward President Trump, precisely because, as Brett and I were talking about earlier, these crosstabs on this Harvard-Harris poll that just came out, 63% of voters believe the economy is on the wrong track. 48% say their financial situation is getting worse. 42%.
Who y'all got? Who y'all got winning?
Those numbers are not going to change.
Crazy times, man.
Harris, comes across as, a nice person.
And you already know what they're doing on. I'm gonna mute this real quick. Who you guys got winning? Not winning. Do y'all see the media and what they're doing right now? Regarding this situation, do y'all know what's happening right now? The media they working they damnedest right now. The media working their damnedest right now to make sure that Kamala wins. They trying, but it ain't gonna be enough.
Because between 70 and 82% of Americans, they're not aware of a lot of the things we said about her positions on immigration, about sex change operations paid for by taxpayers for criminals and illegal immigrants, free housing, health care, education, or, fracking, no drilling. How do you walk away from that?
Americans
Medicare
are getting poorer.
$93 trillion.
Americans are getting poorer under Kamala.
You got darn right. AMC is gonna win.
Walk that back.
Look, I don't disagree.
Kamala Obama about to get ethered.
I just think at the end of the day, we're deciding about and choosing a president. And
Yep, Johnny Birdie's
I
right.
disagree with any of her challenges.
Johnny Birdie's right. They are gonna set the narrative for her to win. They're trying their damnedest to do that, and we all know that. We see what the media is doing. They're I tried to, be fair. I watched CNN today. I watched, MSNBC today, and I just tried to be fair. And I watched them, and I'm like, they're not even mentioning nothing. They're just staying on this values, and that's all y'all selling. That's what y'all selling. Oh man, here we go.
11 minutes to see what's going to happen here.
Sean, final word before we bounce here before the debate?
Well, I would respond gently to my friend Harold and say she's not just separating herself from Joe Biden. She's got to separate herself from herself here. She's the one that said no fracking. She's the one that said no drilling.
Yeah, she do. Ooh, she got to do that. She's really not, like, there's nothing she could really do to win.
Yet most Americans, as
I hope that she switches it around. Nah, she ain't doing none of that shit. She helping bankers run from margin calls. And y'all about to watch that shit live.
Sean, we'll be checking in right after to see what you think. Thanks a lot from the Spin Room.
Yeah, we're just minutes away from the big beginning of this debate tonight. The presidential debate is about to kick off in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania may be the most important state in the nation when it comes to this election. The keys to victory for both of these candidates as we cap off our pregame coverage next.
Oh man, it's finna be hilarious. It's finna be hilarious. I cannot wait to see all the Harris supporters that's been talking shit to me. I can't wait to see them talk all that been talking all that shit to me. Kamala said yes to inflation. You damn right she did. She's like, sure, inflation is sensation. But yeah, I had a space call today, and one of the main things I talked about was her willingness to ignore the Federal Reserve. That is a problem. Yes, Johnny Birdie, she is gaslighting like a motherfucker. She's literally telling you she's not going to fix inflation. This is not like, and then the sad part is the media still tries to make this about race, and they try to make this about values, and Trump is gonna do Project 2025, and it's like, bro, Trump already said he not fucking with them, but you know what they do? They literally kept pushing the narrative that that's what he's doing. So you're literally pushing, you're promoting Project 2025 for him. He doesn't have to say anything. You're promoting it for him. If he was doing it, you're promoting it for him, definitely. But he's not doing that. But they don't believe him. But then they believe him on other issues. They believe him here, but don't believe him there. Well, what is it? I know what we can't believe. We're not going to believe that he's, colluding with Russia, because obviously nothing happened with that, right? So Rachel Maddow, you were wrong. You were wrong, Rachel Maddow. You were wrong. Definitely was wrong. And then you got, I forget, what's the situation? I forget that. It's just a whole clusterfuck of what the fuck. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a damn shame that all of this is happening, man. Hopscotch says, I love Kamala. Oh, man, it's all good, man. I know you love Kamala, but Kamala doesn't love you. She really wants to finesse you and trick you and laugh her way into the damn shit. But you know what? I'm not going, you can love Kamala all you want. It is what it is, but just remember, she's not going to fix inflation. You don't solve inflation by claiming to go after corporate price gouging, or even putting $25,000 in the hands of, everybody when the banks don't have it. The banks are running to the Fed because they don't have it. So how you think $25,000 for every American is going to work? And also keep in mind, she's letting illegals come in, and they're getting money from this stuff. They're coming in and they're spending all this money, all this government money that they're getting. Like, come on, bro. Like, how you, like, there's this one guy, he came across the border at least 4 times. So at this point, they're coming across here, they're going back over there and coming back to get another $5,000. So they're basically going back and forth claiming asylum. Okay, they're basically just going back and forth claiming asylum and getting money from it. This is making us broke. This is making us broke. Y'all got to understand that. You feel what I'm saying? Like, when America goes broke, like, you have to understand, China and even, other countries, they are hoping that America goes broke so that way they could attack us. And when we don't have, give me $25,000, I'll buy more AMC. Yep, I know it. I was swimming in money during Trump years. I'm broke as fuck now, waiting on my fairness in the stock market. San Andreas, you are not the only one, my friend. Trust when I tell you, it is tough out here, man. It is tough out here, and I don't blame you, bro. I really don't blame you. You're not alone, man. Like, everybody's struggling. Like, we predicted these days would happen, especially in the early ape years, where we all watched them, blow money when we were holding the stock. We said, holy shit, this is going to cause massive inflation because there's no more money to go around to even go towards farmers, go towards, government funded programs. They're going to be cutting this and cutting that. They're going to do everything to run from their short positions. And that's what's happening right now. They're just running and running, trying to keep the price down. So, Eight Father says, eating McDonald's, watching the debate, want a Big Mac? I am so good right now. Trust what I'm telling you. I don't want no processed food from McDonald's. I promise you. That's a guaranteed way to shit on the toilet. So I'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? Give me some pure natural foods, and trust when I tell you, I'll be all right. Oh man, but I want to give a shout out to my haters out there that's on Twitter that's promoting, calling me a grifter and all of that. I want to give a shout out to you. Thanks. Johnny Birdie says the other problem is people are so mentally stressed that their financial stresses from inflation is an overdrive, and people don't realize it's going to get worse. Right, it is going to get worse. You think $2,000 plus for rent is bad? Wait till it's $5,000 under Kamala. Because you're going to be forced, people are going to be forced to have no choice but to use her government programs just to have some form of housing. And so that's that's going to be the bubble right there. And then the banks ain't going to have no money because they owe so much money. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to blow up in their face. So either we Moaz with Trump overnight, or we Moaz gradually under a hyperinflated Kamala Harris administration. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm knowing, just based on the data that I'm presented with, and that's what I'm seeing every day. So, if people want to debate that, so be it. Let me get on Twitter for a second. Let everybody know we here. You know what I mean? Hey, I asked a question to the Twitter world. I was like, so if AMC Bigums, Peter Hine, Kay Shaughnessy, and Dario walk in a bar, what happens? Hey, I said they talk financials, the banks run out the back, the shorts start sharding, or Peter, put the ribs down. Y'all know Peter Hahn always talking about ribs and food and stuff like that. So I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, man. Like, if you're an investor, you already understand that Trump is on your side just based on the things that he wants to do. And that's why most people are gravitating towards Trump. And if you don't understand, you will understand real soon. So... Hold up, y'all. President, bruh, I be spelling words current. Okay, I guess I'm not gonna spell it that way. I'm just gonna go by. All right. So there go my tweet. And as y'all know, everybody's going to be, basically word for word. GME got diluted hard even with $4 billion in cash. It is what it is, but ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
Philadelphia, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump about to take the debate stage at the National Constitution Center. It is a critical moment in this race for the White House, just 2 months before Election Day in America. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. And
I'm Brett Baer. The ABC News presidential debate begins in just moments. Thank you for watching here on Fox News. The performances tonight could really be the difference between winning and losing in November. And think how much has changed in 75 days.
All right, I'm gonna go back to that, but when we start seeing them come to the stage and stuff and start talking introduction and stuff like that, that's when we'll kind of get back to it. But predictions, I believe that here we go. Of course, they got ABC on here, so here we go.
And around the world tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then,
I'm going to tell y'all right now, before this thing even gets started, David and her, I don't think they're going to ask no real questions. They're going to ask Kamala some softball questions, and then they're going to let them duke it out, and then they're going to stop them, as you can see, between the 2 minutes. They're going to get 2 minutes to speak their mind and whatnot, but they're going to ask softball questions. They're not going to, Trump is going to be the one to amp it up. I'm letting y'all know now. Trump is going to be the one that brings out the fire that everybody's waiting on. I'm pretty sure that Kamala's going to probably, hee ha ha her way, but understandably so, she's helping the bankers. So here we go. He don't even want to shake a goddamn hand.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. Trump don't want nothing. Y'all see that shit, right?
Honored to have you both here tonight.
Trump don't even want to shake the bitch hand.
To a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have
Trump is like, bro, I'm finna eat this bitch.
And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion.
She said this at the interview, y'all, just so y'all know. She said this at the interview. The same thing that she's saying, she said this at the CNN interview, just so y'all know.
I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax.
I love Trump's move right now. Trump is all smoke right now.
Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy.
Here go to CNN talking points, y'all.
And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would.
She dancing with Wall Street. Y'all hear that, right? She named Goldman Sachs. They owe a fuck ton of money. Never forget it.
16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors think my plan is a brilliant plan.
Hey, that shit is hilarious. Get him, Trump.
Our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something.
Run, spot, run.
The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your
damn right, because I was balling in the fucking Trump years, boy.
Keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China. What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having, on the short end of the stick, in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal.
I agree, Johnny Birdie. I agree with that.
To provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women.
Oh, here go the part they're gonna cut for CNN and MSNBC.
Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter, because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to, because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
Woo! Killed her. Killed her right there.
Her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if you did.
What I said,
well,
they're trying to.
With J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it, because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family.
Trump literally just said, I'm handing it over to the states, and she's going back and acting like he didn't just say that. Y'all see that shit, right? I hope y'all see that shit.
Childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute
Maybe you shouldn't bring illegals in that's bringing in fentanyl because they think it will make money, dummy.
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
Hit him with a right. Hit him with a right hook, Trump. I know it's coming too.
And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
Ooh, shit!
In a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. what they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned,
hey, what's up, Dirty Jers?
The reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes. But it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice President Harris,
the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your response?
First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out.
Whoa!
In Minnesota. And
does that sound familiar? I'm talking now. Does that sound familiar? God damn!
She went out and raised money to get him out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment, as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask you.
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying.
Y'all heard that? Old news. Stop talking old shit. Let's talk about new shit.
Tonight, he said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker, so he still believes he did not lose the election.
And y'all see what media does, right? ABC. Media. They put their 2 cents in when they need to shut the fuck up and ask questions.
This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down.
Bow.
Putin endorsed her last week.
Bow.
Said, I hope
facts.
And I think he meant it.
Facts.
Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Hey, y'all see Buddy right there laughing? He laughing, bruh. All right, y'all. Hey, we still here. We still here, man. They taking a break real quick. What's y'all favorite parts of the debate so far? Everybody, let's talk about it. What's y'all favorite parts of the debate right now? My favorite parts is run, spot, run. Run, spot, run. That was hilarious. I love seeing that. That was funny. And then when he first came out, he was all like, But I don't even want to do this debate with this bit. I thought that was dope. And then, he's like, what was the other one? Other part he said, he was like, I'm talking. Does that sound familiar? I'm talking. Does that sound familiar? And y'all know I'm debating my Facebook friends. Oh, and the one part, you're paying people to be at your rallies. Oh my gosh. He killed her with that one. Oh man. Like I said, I've said this for weeks now. Trump is gonna mop the floor with Kamala. And understand this, people. If you're an American watching right now and you're wondering, what everybody's thinking right now, all I can't get out of my mind, I cannot get out of my mind how she quoted Goldman Sachs. People, American people, where are you? Where are you? Look at this. The best economist in the world, from Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs owes $56 trillion in derivatives. Look at this. Goldman Sachs owes $56 trillion in derivatives. That means they are hiding their losses. They are hiding their losses along with JP Morgan Bank. $56 trillion in derivatives. But she quotes Goldman Sachs. So that confirms what I was thinking earlier. Either she was in on it or she don't know. Now that she quotes Goldman Sachs, she is in on the Ponzi scheme of robbing America. In my opinion, it is what it is. People can disagree with me, but she's robbing America, bruh. And she's using the presidency to do it. So that's how I feel right now. Oh, yeah, that was a Hadouken. Right, there's no reason for her to even mention them. Right. She mentions Goldman Sachs as if they're the best economists in the world, but they owe the most derivatives in the world. That means you owe so much money that you owe more than the American debt. Do you not understand what that? I mean, I just showed y'all. So this is why Kamala got Tim Walz. She couldn't convince all black people. She couldn't convince us. You're not convincing us, bruh. You're literally a walking debt motherfucker that don't pay your bills. That's it. Meanwhile, we're paying our bills and struggling to do so. Struggling to pay our bills, all because you're letting Goldman Sachs rob the Fed every day. Crazy. I ain't gonna lie though, when Trump was like, they're eating dogs or eating cats. I thought that shit was funny as fuck. Look, BlackRock. Fox News, why y'all got Black? Oh yeah, I forgot y'all are funded by BlackRock too. I be forgetting these media sites are funded by BlackRock. Nah, see everybody on my Twitter or this one, like I said, one or two people that disagree with you on Facebook don't matter. But Twitter X, everybody gonna shut that shit down. Yep. Oh, here we go, y'all. We back at it. My bad, y'all. Here we go.
Putin to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives. that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers.
And see, that's a trick. That's a trick question. Do you want to save Ukraine? I want the war to stop. How about that? Save Russia and Ukraine. But see, he want to focus on Ukraine. ABC, you're fucking pieces of shit, man.
They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe, like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250.
They don't like weak. They like weak people.
Billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
Where is Biden? Where is he?
Is he our president? But we have a president
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war?
Yo, get him, Trump! Get him, Trump! Let's go!
Just get it done. Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
You blew our money to do it, dummy. You blew our money to do it, dummy. Trump saying he didn't have to blow the money. He's about money in America, dummy.
Are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century.
Y'all notice she got to look up in the sky, right?
To where we are.
She's trying to remember or even catch whatever's being said to her. Y'all see that, right? I hope y'all see that.
Deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal and, in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight.
Here we go, y'all. Here goes some more funny shit.
Weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent.
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me Can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden, the worst in so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up,
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer...
You are Joe Biden because you're in his administration. You're his vice president. You are Joe Biden.
What is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's
Inflation.
life,
Inflation.
in that most critical stage of your child's
That's all you trying to say is, hey, I'll throw money at you. I'll do it like last time. College, we'll pay off your college, and y'all ain't did shit.
By offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She
please.
has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
no, the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're going to move on, Vice President Harris. President Trump, this is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Correct. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones, too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? and I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run health care system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we, over the last 4 years, have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed, for the first time, Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
In terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot of...
You made a mistake. At number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as Vice President over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been Vice President. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Man, like I said, and I'm going to keep saying it, Kamala lost as soon as she quoted Goldman Sachs. As soon as she, but see, you have to actually be in the room and know what's going on. Meanwhile, all the zombified, cause see, there's, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. Can I be honest for a sec? Can I be honest? There's black people like me that will research shit. Then there's black people that don't research a fuck thing. They just go on by emotions and what CNBC and CNN showing them. And so I'm dealing with a lot of those people on my Facebook, right? And I'm just like, y'all just don't understand what's going on right now. Do you not understand that she's working for Wall Street right now? You know, the best economists, and even Robert Kennedy Jr. just said on Twitter, that's not something you brag about. As president, you're bragging about Goldman Sachs. They owe the most in derivatives. I repeat, they owe the most in derivatives. Okay? As soon as the markets crash, like if your money is in Goldman Sachs, your shit is long gone. You're not getting your money back. Hey, Monica, I agree with that. Exactly, Carl J. It just confirms my vote for Trump even more because, like I said, I get it. He's very emotional at this debate right now. But the fact that Kamala Harris said, Goldman Sachs, even the best economist from Goldman Sachs approves of my economic plan. Of course they do. They're fucking criminals. My gosh, bruh. Let's see how many fines that Goldman. You know what? I'm gonna look that up as soon as we're done with this shit. Everybody's like going off the emotions of, oh, he said this, he said that. Oh my gosh. My gosh, bro. This shit is. And here's the facts. You want to know the facts? Here go the facts. Kamala is scripted. She's trying to remember everything that she was told to say. Okay? Trump is unscripted. He looking right into the camera. He like, yeah, I ain't hearing that shit. Anyways, blah, 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 blah. He's going in. He's going in unscripted. He don't need none of that. He's going to fix inflation, whether you believe it or not. The things he said, I believe him. Kamala, she's like, okay, is it my turn? Okay, all right, CNBC and CNN and MSNBC, get ready. Here we go. Lights, camera, action. It's the... let me tell you, we need to move forward. She's acting for the clips. People, y'all see this before your own eyes. Y'all see this before your own eyes. She is literally acting for the fucking cameras. She's acting for the clips. She knows that CNN, MSNBC, the Young Turks, Kyle Kalinske, Rational National, ABC, they're going to take her clips and say, oh, this was so powerful. It was so powerful. You saw how powerful it was. They're going to do all of that shit, run it back 100 million times, and say that she's the winner. No, she's not the winner. She mentioned Goldman Sachs. America, wake up. She mentioned Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs owes the most derivatives. She running with criminals. You see it before your eyes. Even The Economist loves my economic plan. You sure about that? They just want you in there because they know Trump is going to make them cover their shorts soon as he get in the fucking office. But like I said, some people refuse to know and some people do know. The people that refuse to know, I feel fucking sorry for you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future and the other that is focused on the past and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
Here we go, pander to the emotional studs in America.
Attorney General, a United States Senator, and now Vice President. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border.
Thank you.
They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talk about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
All right, that is a wrap on the Harris-Trump presidential debate, now in the books.
Here with us tonight for post-debate analysis, Britt Hume, Dana Perino, Harold Ford Jr., Laura Ingraham, Jesse Waters, plus Sean Hannity.
I got to hear some of this commentary, y'all. Y'all got to excuse me.
The topics: inflation, abortion, immigration, January 6th. It took about 40 minutes to get to a question pressing Vice President Harris on the list of changing policies from when she ran for president in 2019, about an hour before foreign policy came up. The first question of the debate, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Never fully received an answer there. However, Vice President Harris was clearly well prepared, practiced on the offensive much of the night. Former President Trump did take a lot of the bait that she threw out in some of those answers, but he pointed time and again, as he did there at the end, about what she has or has not done as vice president. The question now is, how much does this move the needle?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be said that she was really never held to the fire. She was not pressed by the moderators on her past positions and how she got from a very progressive, most progressive senator to where she is now. And that falls on ABC. And I think there were moments when it felt like they were helping her out and they were not helping him out.
Yep, they were definitely helping her out. They was helping her out and not helping him at all.
Wanted to make. He went down a few cat and dog holes. Rather than rabbit holes tonight, which will be discussed, no doubt. I thought the strongest moments were foreign policy, Iran, when he talked about Ukraine, Afghanistan, and that close. Why haven't you done it?
Okay, let's go around the horn. Britt Hume, thoughts?
Well, I thought the single question that needed to be answered tonight was, Madam Vice President, why have you changed your position? Give us your thoughts on why you changed your position, not just on the small handful of issues that were raised by the moderators, but on a range of other issues. There were like 2 questions on the whole thing all evening. She never had to account for her changes. Never.
She said she'd go down the list. She never
did. Now, look, make no mistake about it. Trump had a bad night. He rose to the bait repeatedly when she baited him, something I'm sure his advisors had begged him not to do. In the first debate when Biden attacked him, he just kept his cool and kept going.
Yeah, Trump is unscripted.
And we heard so many of the old grievances that we'd long thought that Trump had learned were not winners politically. And there they all were, talking about how he didn't lose the election and all that. I mean, so my sense is that she came out of this in pretty good shape. Now, how long this will last and is anybody's guess. But for tonight, at least, this was pretty much her night.
You're saying she had a good night?
I'm saying she certainly did.
Sean Hannity is in the spin room. Thoughts on this debate, Sean?
I disagree on other parts of what he said. I think the biggest loser in the debate, and we talked about this pre-debate, is ABC. The fact that we didn't get to fundamental, strong positions that Kamala Harris had taken on very deep and profound issues involving the economy and immigration and ending private health care and defund and dismantle. There was a lot of cliche, a lot of rehearsal that I saw in her performance. Okay, that's fine. That was anticipated. There were a lot of lies that she told about abortion, about Project 2025, about gun confiscation, and that was frustrating on a lot of fronts. I think that the biggest epic fail here is that, we're now 50 days in, and early voting, for example, we're in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania tonight, starts 1 week from tonight, and then it rolls out in all these other swing states that matter. The fact that we don't know if she still supports, free housing, health care, education, and sex change operations for illegal immigrants is unfathomable to me after an hour-and-a-half debate. Does she still support defund, dismantle, no bail laws? Do we have an answer on no fracking and no drilling? She didn't say that in 2000. Even CNN fact-checked her after her 16-minute and 29-second debate. We don't have answers on the economy. Bidenomics being a great success. President Trump, I thought, was effective on the issue of, okay, 3.5 years you've been vice president. Why haven't you gotten these things done? And in many, many ways, that pass that she's gotten has been the greatest disservice, I think, tonight to the American people. That's on ABC Disney. That really shouldn't be the other candidate's job to be challenging them, especially when you have muted microphones. We don't know anything about Kamala Harris, and that's frustrating. I didn't hear you. What?
No, that's it. We were listening to you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Oh, okay. Let's go to Harold Ford Jr. Harold,
supporters of Donald Trump and people in that campaign is a disappointment. June 27th, we talked about before, was a different kind of collapse for Joe Biden. In some ways, this has to be thought of as a collapse in some ways. I got reaction from Republican friends. The two common things were train wreck and he needs this to end. These are people who support him, and I think will continue to support him. I said about Joe Biden that night that he seemed all over the place. He seemed unprepared and unorganized. I get the sense. I think ABC, the moderators, could have done a better job. But it's almost like if you're in a basketball game and you go up against playing a team that's taller than you.
All right. I'm finna stop it now. All right, so I get what they all are saying in a sense. Even though I feel like Trump won the debate, it's still like Kamala was basically an actress the entire time. They're basically saying that she played her acting part really well and she played it all the way through. That is all that they're saying right now. And that's what I think Brit Hume is saying is, well, I feel like, Trump had a bad night, blah, 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 blah. Only reason why he feel like that is because of the fact that he needed to, hit some certain parts home. And yes, he did repeat a few things, but Harold is definitely a lefty. No, I ain't worried about Harold. No, I ain't worried about, Harold. Yeah, Harold, I know he a lefty. I ain't worried about him. I'm talking about Brit Humes. I know Brit Humes ain't no lefty. But I think what they wanted was a strong takedown of Kamala. And to be honest, he did take her down in the beginning. But, and I loved every moment of it. But he should have stayed on the inflation element. He should have talked about the Federal Reserve. He should have talked about the importance of that. But I think he was so into the immigration element that I feel like, I think it drowned a few people out. But however, Twitter ain't letting it ride. I mean, if you look at Twitter right now, hold on, let me hear what Jesse got to say. Hold up.
Lines were from Donald Trump. Run, spot, run. Shh, 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 I'm speaking. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah, he know what's up.
Pick Joe Biden up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go get him to sign this thing to close the border. I took a bullet because you said I was a threat to democracy. And they're eating the pets. You watch this thing, if you're a Democrat, you're like, oh, she did a great job. She was much more forceful than Joe Biden. If you're a Republican, you look at this and you're like, that's Donald Trump. He had some moments where you were like, oh, my God, where are we going with this? And then he just had some great knockouts.
I agree with that's what I just said. He has some great knockouts, but then it's like, damn, he's unscripted as fuck.
We're going to see what exactly that looks like. We are just getting started on our analysis, a pivotal night in the 2024 campaign. Our coverage continues right after this very short break.
Right. Run, spot, run. Run, spot, run. That shit was hilarious. That shit was hilarious. It's like run, spot, run. Like, yo, I couldn't believe I was hearing that shit. I was like, yo, that is hilarious, man. But I think a lot of, like I was saying, Trump should have basically asked that question in the middle of this debate. Like, he should have just killed it right there. No matter what she said, he could have just been like, yeah, but you in there right now. Why you ain't doing it right now? Why you ain't doing it right now? He should have just stayed on that the whole time and just said, why you ain't doing it right now? That could have easily won the debate if he just said, why you ain't doing it right now? Now, mind you, I still feel like he won, but I also feel like there was some shit that kind of took him down a little bit. Like I said, the new dog and cat story, I never heard of that story. But, and then he said, we'll find out. I'm like, oh, man, you got to stand on business, bruh. You know what I mean? But remember, it is Donald Trump. He is unscripted. And then the part he was like, yeah, people love my rallies. They come to my rallies. You paying people to be at your rallies. Hilarious. But again, Kamala literally confirmed to all the economists in the world, that's on Twitter and everywhere else, that she works for Goldman Sachs and she's working with them. She listens to their economics and they owe the most in derivatives. Insane shit, man. Like, you've seen it before your ears, your eyes and everything else.
Do media or anything. And now all of her surrogates and her spokespeople can say, she already answered that. So they could just try to figure out a way to coast, bring all that money in and try to spend it and try to win Pennsylvania, which is key for her.
Yeah, but, it's all about the swing states, Laura, obviously. And if her people look at tonight and they say, look, she did well. Her confidence is growing. She wants to reach out and try to win those swing states. We should do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of all this, she prepared for a couple weeks. She moved the points a little bit on the betting markets. But in the end, we all know what we knew before, that ABC's goal tonight was to help Kamala Harris. And ABC did help Kamala Harris. Now, did Donald Trump miss a few opportunities? Absolutely.
Hey, y'all got to see Matt Walsh's tweet. Hey. I'm finna pull it up, y'all. I gotta pull it up, bruh. Matt Walsh and his tweet right now, fucking hilarious. Hold up, I'm going right to it. No, that ain't it. I just liked it. Hold up. Where is that? Hold on, let me like it again. Hold on. All right, now I'm gonna refresh. Yo. Bravo, my guy. Bravo. Bravo, my guy. Bravo. Bravo. What the fuck, bruh? I grew up a middle-class kid and my friend was sexually assaulted in high school. Okay, well, that explains it. Thanks, Kamala. Kamala, why have all of your policies changed? Well, I grew up as a middle-class kid. Okay, well, thanks, Kamala. That explains it. She said that like 4 or 5 times. My gosh, bro. Where, hold on. Oh my gosh. Ruthless Savage. Ruthless Savage. Matt Walsh. Again, people. It was Donald Trump versus ABC moderators. That's all it really was. And Trump got annoyed and it bothered him. And I saw it. And I think that's what really killed it with his momentum, because he had a great momentum coming in. And then David from ABC just kept, well, let me just fact check you right quick, right before. Why you fact checking in the middle of a debate, bruh? Fuck that. Let him say what he got to say. You ain't fact checking Kamala. You ain't saying, hey, Kamala. You know what? Let me tweet that. Hold on. I'm going to tweet something for y'all. Hold on. I'm going to just say everything, because that's really what it is. And yeah. That's how I feel. Trump got fact checked all the fucking time, even in the middle of the fucking debate. Meanwhile, Kamala goes, oh, the best economist from Goldman Sachs says they like my plan. You didn't hear David say, oh, but Kamala, Goldman Sachs has the most derivatives in the entire fucking world. Why are you letting them say that you have the best economy or the best economic plan? They obviously don't have a good economic background. They owe the most in derivatives. Hey, what's up, Chris? I told you I was live, bro. I told you, man, we were just checking this out. You know what I'm saying? Watching it live. Let me see what Sean Hannity got to say real quick, y'all. Hold up.
We still don't have answers where she stands on defunding the police, electric vehicle mandates, mandatory gun confiscation, which she lied about, Medicare for all, the $93 trillion Green New Deal she co-sponsored in the U.S. Senate with Bernie Sanders, banning plastic straws, reducing red meat consumption, up to a 70 or 80% income tax rate. Bidenomics, we call it Bidenomics, and we're proud of it. Offshore drilling, fracking, decriminalizing illegal immigration, free housing, health care, education, college education, and now sex change surgery provided by taxpayers. We didn't hear about the border wall that she was against, that now she's for, and we didn't hear about illegal immigrants and returning home, late-term abortion. She didn't answer the question about restrictions, about months 7, 8, and 9, and the list goes on and on. Left-wing moderators, the biggest loser of the night, ABC Disney, Bob Iger's network. It was a disgrace. They barely asked her about important issues. We've got 56 days until an election. Early voting starts in this Commonwealth in 7 days. You know, in between so-called fact-checking and clapbacks only against Donald Trump, because Kamala didn't offer any details on her own. As predicted, tonight's debate was 3-on-1. Anyway, joining us now from the spin room, Florida Senator, my senator, free state of Florida.
It was 3-on-1. It was 3-on-1. It was 3-on-1. Trump got frustrated and it showed, and he got frustrated and it showed it near the middle. Oh yeah. Nah, man, I don't need all the likes, man. I'm just here to have a good time with y'all. You know, and talking about this debate that we all just experienced. You know, this is a night for America to you know, look and see what's going on with our country. And I want to have an American country. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody else thinks. Everything that I'm experiencing, you know, good has been in America. And I think, you know, with Kamala, like, she's just all this acting, bro. Like, and these little, you know, I mean, golly, man. Yes, ABC is under fire all over Twitter right now. Just so y'all know. Just so y'all know. Like, just so y'all know. Everybody is literally like, bruh, why are you fact checking Donald Trump in the middle of a debate? And he just kept going because he frustrated. You feel what I'm saying? He frustrated. I saw it in his face, and I saw he was going down a lane. I'm like, damn, bro, he getting frustrated. I could tell. I know I'm modest as fuck, bro. I'm sorry, Maddie. I know, man. I'm just being modest, man. Bro, like, you know what I mean? Like, but when it came to Kamala, you don't fact check nothing. You don't sit here and say, hey, hold up. You say you created 800,000 jobs. What happened to those 800,000 jobs that went missing the other week? What happened with that? Who's responsible for that? You ain't ask her that. You ain't say shit about that. You ain't did shit about that. This is why I understand why Trump, now it all makes sense. This is why I told y'all, I was under that umbrella where I didn't understand Trump. And now I'm seeing it from my own eyes. Damn, that's why he hates ABC. Because ABC literally don't play fair. They play like, bruh. They act like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And stabbing you right behind your back. Nah, bruh, you can't do that. Now everybody making jokes about the cats and dogs on the book, of course, Facebook. But everybody that actually matters in votes in this country, y'all already know what to do. We not putting Kamala in. I'm not putting Kamala in. I'm not putting Kamala in. For what? All she doing is the same shit that Biden said or Biden does. Offer to blow a bunch of money, put a bunch of money in your face. $6,000 for tax credits. Now, what about the parents that already got kids that's like 5, 6, 7? What about those parents that ain't having no more kids? What about them? Yeah, no. You need to fix the economy so that way we can take care of everybody. Don't sit there and say, oh, we gonna abortion, a woman's right to, abortion, but if you have a kid, I'm gonna give you $6,000. Like, what the fuck? Nobody's really listening to themselves. Nobody listening to what she actually saying. They're not listening. They're just listening to Trump and saying, he won't answer the question to the moderator. Crazy. Crazy. Fact checks Trump mid-sentence. Well, hold on, Trump. I don't think that's the blah, blah, blah. Like, literally interrupts him. Won't let him just go. Let him go and just get it all out. But now you want to fact check. Oh, but but this, that, but bro, you're interrupting and shit. But you ain't interrupt all that bullshit that Kamala was doing. You ain't fact checked nothing that she was saying. You ain't fact checked a damn thing. And Trump got fucking frustrated. You can see it in his fucking face. You know what I mean? And that shit is fucking crazy, man. Crazy times, man. Moderator always fact checking. Y'all gotta see it. It's insane, man. So Kamala, why are you going to Goldman Sachs? Look, Chris says they ask nothing on policy, only questions that fuel the name calling fight. Look, Chris, everybody that I debate with on Facebook, you see who I'm fighting with all the time on the book, right? Chris knows because Chris is there watching my Facebook. Look at this, bro. This is who Kamala. I'm sorry, the mic is like I'm super loud. This is who Kamala is claiming that she that says, "Hey guys, look, they approve of my financial plan." Bruh, they owe the most in derivatives. You're out of here. You're out of here, bruh. You're out of here. You are out of here. You are working for Wall Street. You are literally no different than Nancy Pelosi. You have clearly showed that you don't give a fuck about the people. You'll let them, oh, okay, how much you want? A new baby? $6,000. Sure. Hey, yeah, I'll do that because, you know what I'm saying, I need, I just want to put some money in your face, get in, and what? You're going to blow that $6,000 in like 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, I'm already in office. I'm finna make a bunch of fucking money. Bruh, people, this lady really think we're slow. This lady really think we're fucking slow, bruh. Insane shit. Insane shit. What y'all got to say in the comments, man? Chat, what's up, man? Talk to me. What's going on? Chat, talk to me. What's going on? I'm going to assume that everybody left and went to bed because everybody's pretty much tired. They probably running to Twitter right now. But, man. Insane what's going on. And, and like I said, Trump got frustrated because it was a 3-on-1. They jumped him. You know what I mean? They fact checked him all over the place. Oh, but that's not what happened. This is what happened. Oh, but they said this. And what are you sure? But you said this. Do you remember you saying that? You're not a reporter right now. You're a moderator. You are a moderator. You ask the question, you let them go, and then you say, all right, stop. You next. What do you got to say? All right, thank you. What do you got to say? All right, thank you. What do you got to say? They didn't do none of that shit. That's the problem. And see, I think Trump need to also start understanding that these moderators, quote unquote moderators, you need real moderators, somebody that's going to stand on business and not sit there and choose a side, not debate who. If I was a moderator, I wouldn't ask fact check Kamala. I'll be like, all right, Kamala, you said your shit. All right, next. What you got to say? Next. What you got to say? You know what I mean? Oh, trust. Everybody's making jokes about the dogs and cats and all that shit on Facebook, and they're doing that. But like I said, where all the people hang at or at right now is Twitter X. So I don't give a fuck what the motherfuckers on Facebook got to say because they don't know shit. So it's all about the people that actually know what's going on. Like the financial economists that's like, oh, this bitch is bragging about Goldman Sachs approving of her financial plan, but they owe $56 trillion in derivatives. I don't know, but I'm take me a little smoke break. I know I've been working with y'all. You know what I'm saying? It's been like 2 hours. We getting on here, but since the chat's kind of quiet, I'm just gonna get on out of here and catch me on Twitter, probably talking some big shit. And with that being said, y'all, I will see y'all tomorrow. I had to go to the doctor. Hell yeah. Hey, man, don't feel like garbage. Hold up, Dirty Jerz. Dirty Jerz, remember this, man. We're not letting Kamala win. Don't feel like garbage, man. Kamala lost listen, the idiots on Facebook, they don't matter. They don't know a lick of shit. I've learned that. They don't know a lick of shit. Don't worry about the idiots on Facebook. Worry about the people on Twitter. The people on Twitter X, they know what's happening. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody sees the moderators try to cheat and muscle their way. The young Turks are going to, oh my gosh, did you hear what Trump said about this? They're going to jack themselves off. Kyle Kalinske is going to say, man, that's shit wild, bro. He's going to act stupid, of course. The media folk are going to repeat Kamala clips 100 times. Just get ready for it. But just remember, we're not putting Kamala in office. Nobody's going to put her. I'm an American citizen that pays taxes in the United States of America. I am not putting Kamala Harris in office just because she said, oh, okay, you sick. Oh, okay, you sick. Never mind. I'm sorry. But just because she said, oh, Goldman Sachs approves my financial plan. Yeah, you lost. I don't care what you say after that. Everything you say after that is bullshit. You lost, young lady. But the media will say she won because she finished her debate. Oh, man, woo-wee, she finished. Yeah, you had to jump Trump to do it, though. So it is what it is. Y'all have a good one. I'll see y'all in the morning. And did the shorts cover? Of course not. They're fucking running from margin calls. And Kamala's fucking helping them.